All right. I think everyone who has joined should have had a moment to get their audio up and running now. So we will go ahead and start this morning's webinar on the installed base evaluation. So good morning all, and hello to you who may be watching the recording of this after the fact. I will open up first with a couple announcements. Obviously, you are here this morning for our installed base evaluation overview. Next week, we are going to be having a user group, which is a little bit more long form than our tech talks, a little bit more interactive, and that's going to be an introduction to Rockwell Automation's controllers and I/O. I know that's one I plan on being on for my own learning as well. And then 2 weeks from today, we have our next Tech Talk. Again, the Tech Talks are a little bit shorter, a little bit more, I don't want to say bite-sized, but a overview of a particular topic in a shorter format. And that is going to be an update of the Stratix portfolio and then a focus on one of their new switches, the Stratix 4300. That is going to be presented by one of our networking specialists. I believe it's Brandon Singh, although that will be confirmed by the time we get to January 26th. We also want to take a moment and point out our new resources section on our website. So the Tech Talks, the user groups are there. We also have an automation blog and we have an automation podcast. I like pointing that out because I spend a good bit of time editing those episodes. I'm occasionally a host on that as well. And we have a good slew of episodes lined up for the beginning of 2022. I would encourage you to add that to whatever pod-catching app you use, just so you're aware as episodes come in and you can listen to the ones that are about technologies or solutions that most apply to your facility. So today, the presenter is myself. I am Brad Freeman. I am one of the industrial services specialists at Reynolds. I cover our North Texas region. So if we are wrapping up today's presentation and you want to know more, reach out to myself or to your Reynolds account manager. If you are within my specific territory, I'll be diving into this topic further with you. If you are covered out of our Houston area, I have a counterpart there named Andrew Hultgren. And in Louisiana, Joe Boudreau is my counterpart in that region. So today's presentation is on the installed base evaluation. I am shooting to make this about a 15-minute talk. This is really just a quick overview of what does this look like? What are the primary reasons that this facility assessment, facility study would be done? And like I said, the next steps from there would be sitting down with myself, with your account manager, with any stakeholders in your organization to dig into this further about how it would apply to your facility, your industry in particular. So if we're going to start with what is it? Well, it's a survey of your plant, of your facility. If we're going to look at this in two parts, the first part is going to be what is the work being done? So we will have either a Rockwell Automation engineer or a technician from the Reynolds company who is going to come out to your facility, sit down with you and your team, and first create a hierarchy of what your automation infrastructure looks like. So that might be dividing things up based on each individual production line. It might be dividing things up based on production versus packaging versus a dry side or a wet side. That really varies by industry. But that hierarchy is going to be a structure that we use to then capture all of this detailed information. And that detailed information is us going through your facility panel by panel. We're going to look at every control panel, every PLC, every drive, every I/O card, every piece of automation equipment. And we're going to pull part number, condition, location, and frequency of use. So that's the work that's being done on site. The second half of what this is then the information that we're gaining. And that is going to come back to you in a series of reports. So we've pulled all of this detailed information out of your facility. We send it to the data analytics team at Rockwell, and it's going to be coming back to you with a report for the storeroom to use to make better decisions on critical spares, with a report for maintenance to use to identify troubleshooting issues quicker, with a report for engineering to use to make modernization decisions and migrations. So that's the basis of what the installed base evaluation is. We use the acronym IBE quite a bit, but the IBE is a plant survey to give you detailed information about what you are running in your facility. What is the goal? I touched on that a little bit as I was talking through what it is, but we really have three main goals in doing an IBE. The first is, how do we reduce your downtime? If we can help you identify the spares that you need so that when you go down, you can get back up faster, that's one of the biggest solutions we see coming out of this, as well as giving you better information for troubleshooting assistance. If you have a detailed bill of materials, you'll be able to get back up and running faster. If reducing downtime is a little bit reactive, this next step is a little bit more proactive, where we want to maximize the value of your plant. So timing migrations, timing modernizations, seeing where in your plant you're at risk due to obsolescence. That's how we help you maximize the value of your automation assets, by identifying where you could be at risk due to the life cycle of the material and the equipment aging, getting towards the end of that life cycle. Lastly, and this is really a combination of the two, we want to increase the reliability of your plant. Now, if we're helping you reduce downtime and get back up faster, if we're helping you make those big picture decisions around migrations and modernizations, both of that feeds into plant reliability. But then you'll also get a checklist of wiring issues, grounding issues, ventilation issues, environmental issues. If you are in a harsher industry and we're seeing specific panels that are being corroded or beat up faster than normal, we'll be letting you know so that you can make adjustments and hopefully increase the lifespan of your equipment. Now, I'm going to run through very briefly a few sample reports. What I'm sharing on the screen right now are just screenshots. I have the actual spreadsheet versions of these that we can manipulate, scroll through, show you how we would use this to pull different types of information out of it. This is based on an actual installed base evaluation done on a bakery in Wisconsin, I believe, before it was made a little bit more generic. Names were pulled out, locations were pulled out, and given to us as a sales sample that we can use. So there are two really workhorse reports, the ones that have the most value for you. This first one is called the Inventory Analysis Report. This is the report that your storeroom is going to take and make better decisions based on. So on the far left column here, you can see we've got the life cycle of the product listed. That is going to be split up between the red D for discontinued or obsolete parts no longer in production. The yellow EOL is end of life. So we have a discontinued date announced, although it is still in production for the moment. We have a light green AM, says active mature. So this is still in full production, although there is a newer version of this equipment available. And then there is a dark green A. It's not available or not visible in this particular screenshot. And that is saying that this is the newest product and is in full production now. Next column, we have the part number, where we can start to dig into the details of what you need. And then a description as well, just again, to make this report a little bit more readable. Where we have actionable data starts beyond that as we look at, first of all, the installed quantity of this part number. So how many exist somewhere within the plant and are actively running, are actively being used in your process. We then compare that to the number of items which are in your storeroom. We have a separate column for stash if that information is gathered during the IBE. Stash is defined as any spares kept somewhere outside of the storeroom, in the desk of an engineer or a maintenance personnel, in a mezzanine somewhere, extra items that are kept sort of as a break glass in case of an emergency. We then look at recommended spares, and that is going to be based on several factors. One, how many of this particular item is installed in your plant? Two, how often the machine it's on is running. If it's a 24/7 production line, or if it's a side process that the machine is run maybe twice a week, we're going to recommend more spares for the 24/7 process than for the occasionally run side machine. So we have the recommended spares compared to the actual spares on site. And that gives us a couple columns. One, insufficient spares. So the recommendation there is you need to make sure that these spares are on site. If something breaks, you're going to be down until you can get that spare from somewhere outside your facility. The second is excess spares. Those are carrying costs that you don't need to carry anymore. If you can send them to a sister facility, go for it. If it's old and broken and really doesn't need to be there anymore, throw it out, get it off your books. It's going to help your finances in the long run. The second workhorse report that you get is called the Detailed Product Location Report. Now, the screenshot that I have on the Zoom screen here is the spreadsheet version of this. This also exists in a PDF format, and I'll get to what that looks like in a moment. This spreadsheet is going to be fully editable, can be filtered by any of these columns, and we start with a big picture. The base report has all information across the entire plant. We can then start filtering it down by up to 4 layers of that hierarchy that we talked about early on. In this particular bakery, they start with the area. Everything in this screenshot is in packaging plant 1. So then you'd have packaging plant 2, production plant 1, production plant 2, et cetera. Within the area, we've got locations. You can make that production lines or cells or however you want to look at that. Again, everything on this screenshot is in dry mix packaging. From there, we go down to the machine or storeroom name. So this is on the dry mix packaging line, machines 1 and 2. And then each of these part numbers is going to be identified to a particular control panel. Now, in the PDF format of this report, you are going to have 1 page per control panel for the entire plant. I've seen that used in a couple ways. I've seen customers who have printed this up in a binder, and when you need to head out to troubleshoot something, you grab the binder. As you're heading out to, say, case packer control panel 1, you flip to case packer control panel 1 on whatever page that is, and you can see the bill of materials. If you already know it's a drive issue, if that's what you were told as you're heading out, call the storeroom, give them the part number, ask them if they have it. If not, have them check on what the pricing would be to get one, so that once you get out there, you already have an idea of what your options are. The next report that you get is the environmental report. And this is, like we talked about earlier, really a one-off checklist where we're going to give you a list of any issues that we saw as we went through the facility that need to be addressed. So in this particular example, the pancake griddles seems to have an issue with water pooling in the control panels. On griddle 2B, we've got standing water in the lower right corner of the panel. And in griddle 1B, there's evidence that water was inside, although it's not pooling now. So you can see that there's something going on in this area perhaps in a washdown situation that needs to be addressed. We'll also note anything with grounding, wiring, ventilation, or other general notes is all going to be given to you in this report. Now, those are the three most common, most useful reports. There are a few others as well. That would be something, again, if you're hearing this conversation today, you're interested in learning more, I can start digging into this with you. So some of the most common action items that we see are, first off, right-sizing your spare inventory. Now, that could mean a large purchase of spare parts. That could mean a critical spare parts contract, which is something that we offer, and we could dig into the details there. It could be maintenance on control panels. Again, we talked about that. Wiring, grounding, environmental, ventilation, any of those issues that we saw as we were going. Or instead of looking at those individual problems, we could pull back a little bit and look big picture at what a modernization effort looks like. And this is the kind of information you need to put together a good plan like that. You can take the bird's eye view, but then you can get as granular as you need to and kind of zoom in and out as you're putting that plan together. Now, the IBE has been an offering for, I believe, more than 15 years at this point. What's new is the service called My Equipment that comes with an IBE. Rockwell's online user experience is called My Rockwell. So you can set up, I have a screenshot of my own personal My Rockwell account on the screen here right now. And you can look at repair history, at a particular bill of materials that you put in, so you can track tech notes or known issues or product updates that come out. You'll get an alert that something in one of your bill of materials has an update, and you can look at it that way. The information from the IBE is going to be integrated in here as well. So it will exist as a bill of materials that you can look at directly through the Rockwell website, as well as having it in more traditional spreadsheet and PDF formats. So, like I said, I was hoping to keep this to about 15 minutes long. I'm going to pause here and see if there are any questions. If any of the co-hosts have been watching the chat, if they could let me know if anything has come through there. And then as I'm waiting to hear that, I'll just say, again, next steps is please reach out to your Reynolds account manager, reach out to myself, to my counterparts in the other areas that Reynolds covers. And if you're not sure who to reach out to, go ahead and get in touch with me, and I can put you in touch with the right person to help you start to work on this. All right, I'm seeing a notification on the Q&A here. Alina, you asked, are there different price or support levels for the IBE? There are 4 levels, and that is split up by looking at Rockwell branded equipment only versus Rockwell and any third party. We then split it, I'll say on the other axis, between repairable assets only and repairable and consumable. So we can look at just the larger ticket items of PLCs, drives, Stratix switches, etc. Items that are enough of an asset that you would send it out for a repair if it breaks rather than just buying a new one. Or we can get down into component class drives, sensors, switches, safety equipment, that sort of thing, to give you a little bit more of a detailed look. So we can scope this as needed based on what equipment you're most interested in seeing. I think another item that I will add to that answer is we can then adjust your technical support contract to cover what items we show. So if you have a basic support contract that's covering PLCs only, and after doing an install-based evaluation, you realize how much drives you had or You have more industrial networking issues and you're going to need to upgrade your network. We can alter support contracts. We can bring in some of the other Reynolds specialists on putting together a modernization plan, et cetera. So there's a lot of follow-up adjustments and action items that we want to be taking from this. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions coming in. So I want to say thank you to everyone who attended this morning. And I look forward, I hope, to hearing from you to start to dig into this a little bit deeper as to how we can use the IBE at your facility.